Hello there Scapers, my name is Xenobilius and welcome to this mining and smithing beta review video. I'm going to try and make this short and sweet, unlike what I normally do, just to give you guys the basic gist of this beta, what it involves, how mining and smithing will now work, and also how your feedback and other players' feedback can help shape the beta. That's the most important point I think about this video, the fact that nothing is fixed and everything can be changed based on player feedback. So you can access this beta using a number of different ways. I put the link to it in the description below. Essentially you can use your own Runescape account for it, although it will just be a copy of your Runescape account. Your stats will all be at 1, and as soon as you enter you have access to a variety of different things, such as different pieces of armor and weapons, ores, bars, and also you can give your character different skill levels to check out different parts of the beta and see how it varies based on your skill level. For example, how much quicker you can mine a rock depending on your mining level or the pickaxe you're using and so on. Let's start with mining then. So mining is very similar to what it is right now, except for two things. Firstly, there is a progress bar above your head, which is essentially like a damage bar. If you remember that, I forgot the monster's name, but there's a monster in Dungeoneering which you need to actually mine or attack with a melee weapon to break through its armor before you start damaging it. Essentially, the higher your pickaxe level, the more damage, quote unquote, you will do to that rock, and the faster you will progress towards getting that ore. Once that bar is full, you will get your ore. So to start with, until level 15 mining, your character will automatically swing their pickaxe with an animation that lasts 5 ticks, i.e. 3 seconds. Each time they finish the animation, they get a certain amount of XP. This XP is not random like it is right now. It's consistent based on this swing period of 3 seconds. However, what you can do is to gain more resources faster by paying more attention. There's a new thing called stamina, which you can unlock at level 15, which rewards you for paying more attention. There is a secondary bar on top of you, a bit like an adrenaline bar. The higher that adrenaline bar, the more progress you will make towards getting that ore. That bar will drop constantly, and you can refresh it by clicking on the rock. As long as there is some part of that bar filled up, you have a chance of playing a 4-cycle animation, so gaining ores 20% faster. That chance is at 50% when your adrenaline bar, quote unquote, is full, and it drops down to 0 when it's completely empty. So the more attention you pay, i.e. the more clicks you do, the faster you will get XP and ore. To get the best possible XP rates, you want to click once every 4 ticks, i.e. once every 4-tick cycle. So that's the basic gist of mining. There is also an upgraded ore bag, which is free, untradeable, unbankable. And I found that the higher the level of the ore, the less ore you can store before it becomes full, which kind of makes sense. It's kind of good as well because you can destroy it and it will only appear when you mine it, when you mine a rock. There is also another mechanic which I don't really want to go into. It's called hardness, which is kind of common sense. Basically, the higher the level of pickaxe you use compared to the level of the rock you're mining, the faster you will mine it. So that's basically how that works. And also, important thing to note is that your progress, if you're at 99% and you complete a swing, then any leftover points from that 100% will carry on to your next progress bar, so you don't lose out on progress. The main thing to note is that rocks will not deplete, so there's no competition for ore as a result, and the more attention you pay, the better the XP rates and the resource gathering rates you will have. Buy up to 20% if you're paying the max possible amount of attention. Strength and agility will also have a small effect, not too much though, and there is also a harmonized rock effect, if you remember that from Elf City mining. That will basically give you 5 times the usual XP for that swing if you see a rock highlighted, and I guess it's a nice little effect. So overall, I think mining is probably the more polished out of the 2 skills in this beta. I'm pretty happy with the way it works, but obviously it's to be seen how the XP rates will be scaled based on this new method. Smithing, however, is probably the one out of the 2 that needs way more work in my opinion. Currently it's quite complicated and there are lots of things that they need to work on with it. But essentially what you need to know is that the way metals, tiers and ores required work now are much different. Again, this is subject to changes, but Rune has now been scaled down. Rune and all levels below it have been scaled down according to the tier of the weapon or armor that they correspond to. So to make Rune, you only need 50 smithing, not 99 to make Rune plate bodies that you do right now. So yeah, and there are 4 tiers above Rune, 60, 70, 80 and 90. 90 being Elder Rune, requiring 3 different types of ores. Everything else either only requires 1 or 2 different types of ores. They've definitely simplified it, that's for sure, in terms of the amount of ore required to make each bar. The main thing to note is that there is a hopper now, a hopper system which can store your ores in bars, allowing you to make 28 bars per smelting process. The smelting process isn't any different from how it is in the game right now, except that of course because you don't need to have so many different types of bars, ores in your inventory, you can make 28 in one go. Once the actual smithing process starts, this is where the beta is completely different to how it is in the real game. So what you need to do is you need to heat up the bars further after removing them from the smelter or the furnace into a thing called a forge. What this will do is it will add something called heat to it. Heat is similar to the mining stamina bar, where the higher the heat you have, the faster you smith the item. So there's a forge and then there's an anvil. Once you've heated the bar, you can click on the anvil and you will start smithing. Essentially, the higher your heat, the faster you will smith. But you lose heat over time, similar to how your stamina goes down over time when you're mining. The difference is that unlike with mining, where you can completely AFK it, when the heat reaches 0, you can't smith it at all, not even at a minimum level. So you need to go back to the forge and reheat it. So above 66% heat, you smith something twice as fast as normal. Between 66 and 33%, it's 1.5 times. Between 33 and 0%, it is normal time. And at 0%, of course, there is no progress made. There is a fixed amount of XP that's awarded when the item has been finished smithing. However, because you can smith an item faster depending on how much attention you're paying, you can obviously get faster smithing XP rates if you pay more attention and reheat your bar on the forge. So that's the basic idea of smithing. There's a lot of controversy about the forge and whether it should be there, and secondly, whether having a high smithing level should give you more of a leeway in terms of how slowly your heat depletes, how much heat you can have at one time and things like that. But the second part to smithing is actually the back end stuff. I don't want to go into this too much because this video was meant to focus on the mechanics rather than the facts and figures of how smithing works. Just looking at how you do smithing in the game. So that's what I really wanted to focus on. But essentially, from this table, you can see that you can upgrade different tiers of weapons and armor a certain number of times, up to a maximum of 5 with Elder Rune. And Elder Rune, for example, has a base item level of 80, requiring 90 combat, 90 in whatever skill, to actually equip it, but has a stats equivalent to a level 80 weapon or armor, and you can get it up to level 85 up by upgrading that item. Essentially, upgrading an item follows the exact same process as making it, requiring the exact same amount of materials. The only difference between upgrading and making an item from scratch is that you don't need to actually make the bars in the first place. You just need to add extra bars to that item. And once you upgrade an item the maximum number of times, you can decorate it, which is essentially a method of gaining a huge chunk of smithing XP for that item. A bit like invention in exchange for donating that item. So a bit like disassembly versus siphoning in invention. Decorating an item works similar to upgrading it, but it doesn't need any more bars, so you just need to work on it a bit more. And this is basically power smithing. Decorating and handing in is very fast smithing XP, but very expensive. The other option is, of course, to just upgrade it to the maximum and then sell it off or something to recuperate some of your losses, similar to how smithing works right now. Although I believe there is a smithing perk, I forgot the name of it, but there is a smithing perk which gives you a bit more XP by getting rid of your item. But yeah, that's just a start. I think they're trying to build on that. So that's pretty much the update. Like I said, there's a lot more to it. So if you want to check out some of the design documents, feel free to check the description below. Obviously, the beta doesn't have graphics and things upgraded to the max, so don't expect too many things, but they are updating it. For example, they've increased the amount of heat you can get per smithing level and a few other things. I'm sure they'll keep upgrading it. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this develops because I think it's a great idea for before, mining and smithing, it's required a rework for far too long. The other things that I think need a rework are construction and summoning. Summoning for a long time, I think. A summoning rework would be absolutely epic, but I'm not expecting that anytime soon. Of course, most people are expecting the bank rework, for which we still haven't got a beta, so I'm hoping that will happen. But these betas are a great idea for feedback, so make sure you check it out, give any feedback you have. There are lots of suggestions made by players. One of my favorite ones is how you can use strength and agility to improve your mining rates. Why aren't you able to use fire making to help with your heat system? Why isn't that a thing? That's a very good question. I hope it is. I hope they do incorporate it. Fire making is far too underwhelming. Given that it's an entire skill, it needs to have more uses and more linkages. So the only thing I would say I'm not looking forward to is the possibility of 120 mining and 120 smithing becoming comp requirements at some point in the future. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to predict. So when that happens, rip, unless you guys already have 120 capes in those. Grats, I definitely don't. I'm very far away. But especially mining should be much more AFK now. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Please do check out the description for more information. Comment below with any suggestions you may have and things. And also check out the beta first and foremost and cast your votes on the poll in there as well. So yeah, I'll see you next time.